Hello, this is Elliot Kinzer, Regional Data Consultant with the South Central Core Office. I'm going to take a few minutes today explain how to use the item analysis tool that's built to go along with the TCAP EOC practice test. On the screen, you'll see an example of the tool. The test that the tool is aligned to will always be in this green box. This particular tool is for the 6th grade math test. There are two versions of the amended practice test, a 2013 version and a 2015 version. You want to be sure that you use the right item analysis sheet that corresponds to either the 2013 or the 2015 version. The 2013 amended tests are Form 2, and the 2015 amended test are Form 1. You may notice that the tool is an expanded version of the answer key. Each sheet tells you the question number, the SPI associated with the question, the correct answer, as well as the reporting category associated with that question. At the top, you see all of the reporting categories for 6th grade math. We can scroll down and see that this information is there for all of the questions on the 6th grade math practice test. Also, in this area at the bottom of each sheet, if there were SPIs not measured, it would tell you here. For this particular test, all SPIs are measured at least once. In this example, this is 3rd grade ELA, and SPI 301.1.7 is not measured on this test. This information is important because if there are SPIs not measured on the test, the teacher needs to be aware of that so they can create some additional practice to be sure students are familiar with the skills associated with that SPI. Let me explain the data inputs needed for this tool to work, and I'll come back and explain a little bit more about the colors in just a few minutes. In order to get the information needed from the item analysis tool, you need two pieces of information. First, you need to be able to tell the sheet the total number of students that you have tested. You will also need to be able to put into the sheet total number of students that got any one question or any particular question correct. And you can see that I'm putting that information in on the screen right now. You will notice as I've put that data in, the sheet is calculating the percentage of students that answered each of those individual questions correctly. You'll also notice across the top, it is giving you the average number of questions that are answered correctly for these particular categories. And this data can be put in the sheet multiple ways. If you grade your test by hand, you can simply go through and type in the data as I've showed you. If you're using an online grading program, most of those will export an Excel file where you could copy and paste that information into the item analysis sheet. The colors in the tool represent or give the teachers a way to prioritize their time. As we get closer to test time, we need to be able to prioritize how we spend our instructional time during the day. The categories that are colored red are the categories that will weigh the most on the actual assessment. So for 6th grade math, number and operations can be up to 38% of the test. So it's red. It's the highest weighted category. Mathematical processes could be up to 26%. It's yellow, second highest weighted category. And algebra is blue. It's the third highest, and all other categories are the peach color. You'll notice the colors on the sheet here correspond to the categories at the top. Once you get the data into the sheet, you can then see the percentage of questions that your students answered correctly in each of these categories. Then, as you begin to decide how to prioritize your time, you can go to that red category first, that category that will have the highest number of items on the actual test. Let me show you a few other features built into the sheet that also help you understand the results and make some decisions around your instruction. So if I know numbers and operations is the highest weighted category on the test, then I'm most likely going to spend my instructional time around that category first. Each of these columns has a drop-down menu that will allow you to filter this information. If I go to the RCPI column, click the drop-down menu, I can tell it to show me only questions related to number and operations. You now see on the screen only questions that are related to the number and operations reporting category. I can then go to the percent correct. This column is telling me the percentage of students that answered those questions correctly. I can click that drop down, come to number filters, and I'm going to choose less than or equal to. So what I'm telling the sheet to do now is show me the questions from the test that 50% or less of my students answered correctly. So now on the screen, I see questions from number and operations that 50% or less of my students answered correctly. I can then return to the test and determine what might have been the issue. Was it a particular distractor for that question, or was there vocabulary difference on the assessment than maybe what is being used in the class? I can then come back and change that to show mathematical processes. So now I see the questions that half or less of my students got correct in mathematical processes. And I could follow the same procedure in going back to the test and determining what might have been the problem that made those questions difficult for my students. I've unfiltered now, and I'm back to the original setting. I have all the questions here. I have my data in, the total number of students, the number of students that got the questions correct. I can also filter this sheet by SPI. So if I've been using a classroom tracker, keeping up with mastery of my students toward particular SPIs, I can come to this column and filter it for single SPIs. Show me all the questions related to SPI 1.2. You'll also notice when you do that, the percentage up here changes. So half of the students got questions related to mathematical processes correct. If I filter for another SPI, 1.3, that percentage will change again. 66.7% of my students answered mathematical processes questions related to SPI 1.3 correct. There are many options in using these filters and how a teacher might be able to use this information to direct instruction. I appreciate your time. I wish you well, and good luck.